sky's not blue.
You need to understand that when the time comes, I'm gonna be taking over.
Men and women turning on each other, tearing each other's skin with their teeth and their nails. Eyes like snakes. Screams from below, cries from above. It's the end of the world. Judgment comes to wipe your stain from the world.
Trust me, Sals. Stains coming out of my booth ain't from me.
So gross! It is the hour of our reckoning, and I have to spend it with you?
I like what I do. I don't like being shamed for it, especially by the one person who's so hot to save my soul, but can't be bothered to save me from dying in a fucking peep show booth!
This is the end, Angie Petterelli. You thought hell was a joke? You thought hell wasn't real? Think again!
Sally, I'm gonna need you to back off me now.
Hell is coming for you. It is coming for everyone, and all of your sins, and all of your judgments. Oh, how you're gonna pay.
What other crazy, messed up shit do I have to deal with in a single day?
Maybe try to be a little less aggressive. You've been scaring the customers.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I'm your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, they are the stars of the new Shudder-exclusive horror film, Revealer, Caito Aase and Shaina Schrooten. How are y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I know we were just talking like right before this about how much flexibility there was to like get everything lined up, because I think we like started talking a month ago after like C2E2 after the screening there.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that was a month ago. Wow.
Scheduling is impossible.
Yeah, I play a lot of D&D, so scheduling is a nightmare and also my second job.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that this all got lined up though. So I was actually looking through my notes from C2E2 because you all know I wrote a review for my friend's website, Monkeys Fighting Robots. So yeah, I was really stoked to check out the movie because just in general I've been a fan of Tim Seeley's writing for a while. So I saw that he had written a movie, so I was like, I gotta check this out, and I ended up loving it. So
Yay.
Hell yeah.
Love it so much.
Yeah, so I guess just to start, what attracted you all to this project?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I think a big draw was like the opportunity to work with Tim and Mike as comic book writers. I'm a pretty big nerd myself, so it was like, wait, we're gonna do a movie and it's written by comic book people. But also when the casting director Sarah Casey pitched it, she was like, so the character is a stripper who fights demons in the 80s, and I was like, you're ticking all my boxes. I want to do this.
Yeah, I was really excited about the script when I first read it. When I got the audition, I could easily picture myself in the role, and not that I am very similar to the character Sally at all, but I I could just visualize myself in it, which I always feel like is a green flag for something that I want to work on if I can see it so well. And like the writing, Tim and Mike, it flowed so easily in my brain. And I was like, let's go. This is gonna be so fun.
Yeah.
And I love the way that like the script really kind of had it so that when the movie starts, you kind of feel like you understand which character you're going to be rooting for more than the other, but it kind of just like pulls you back and forth, like because there's like varying points in the movie where I was like, okay, but now this other person seems like more of a jerk than the character that I thought that I didn't like, and it just kind of goes back and forth on like which one you're is kind of like tugging at your heartstrings a little bit more, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's human dynamics, right? Like we contain multitudes. And I think that these characters really exemplify that. And they're not perfect people. So it's not something where you're like, oh, well, clearly Angie's the protagonist, or clearly Sally's the protagonist. It's like, it shows this kind of complexity of the relationship dynamic.
Yeah, I think they easily could have, with the writing or even our performances, could have fallen into archetypal territory. And I think thankfully we all were able to avoid that, which I think is what makes these characters, so dynamic and lovable and hateable, and takes you on a ride for sure.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that also kind of stuck out to me is that I wasn't as familiar with Mike's writing beforehand, but with Tim, I'm like familiar with Hack Slash, and just like this whole appreciation that he has for the final girl in the horror movie. And the thing that kind of jumped out at me in this movie is that there's two final girls, and they're basically the only characters in the movie for most of the movie.
Yeah. I feel like you get into horror and you get into making horror movies, and it's like, oh man, to be a scream queen, to be a final girl is like the goal, right? And then there's two of us, and we both end up having these really badass moments and these really heartfelt moments. It's such a robust picture of who these people are, and kind of a little bit turning the genre on its ear a little bit.
Yeah, and not to like toot COVID's horn, but
Ever.
ever. But like because of the restrictions and, the limitations, they had to write a script with, all of these barriers and such a small cast. And I think it kind of gave us a little happy accident of getting to co-star in a movie together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to circle back to the COVID thing in a little bit, but I guess maybe we're like jumping the gun a little bit, getting into some of these questions, because while I'm trying not to like spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it, I guess we should just explain that like the premise is that a stripper and a religious protester get trapped together in a peep show booth as the apocalypse happens. And it's such a great premise.
Yeah, like the best elevator pitch ever. It's like, great, sign me up.
Yeah, that one sentence elevator pitch is just chef kiss.
And so you mentioned filming during COVID. So what was it like, not only filming, but I guess sort of like what was the casting process like in the first place, and just kind of trying to find a project to be part of during COVID?
Terrifying.
Yeah, it was like tough.
Very much every audition that I got personally, I was like just like more hungry than like usual, I think, for, and more like you never know what's going to be like the last thing, when your career is ripped out from under you, when all of a sudden nothing is happening. It felt kind of like a scarcity mentality for a little bit there. And it was like, okay, I really have to like, give this my all. Not that other ones hadn't been like that, but it was in a world of like everything was going to self-tapes for the first time. You're not going into the casting office and like feeling the energy of the casting director, the directors. And so especially in the beginning when we were filming these auditions, it was like, it felt like throwing shit at the wall and just being like, I don't know. I hope that this is what they're looking for. And if not, oh well, on to the next. But and then like the callback was on Zoom with Luke Boyce, our director, and it was again like trying to get a feel for somebody through a computer screen and hoping that, you know, you're vibing and everything's working out. But it's the direction everything's heading in now too. So it's like it's a different time for sure.
Yeah, it was just a wild experience to like send in a self tape and then do a callback and like have it be on my phone, which is this big. And yeah, trying to get a feel for someone and a feel for a project, and you know, a sense of like, do I want to commit to this when you really just kind of have this like one shot to go off of. And you know, like Shaina was saying, we were in a situation where we didn't even know if our industry would exist. We didn't know, you know, we didn't know if we'd come out the other side being actors, or if we needed to pivot so hard that we just, you know, left. And I think when this came through, I had a mixed feeling of, you know, being overjoyed at having an offer for a feature audition, but also kind of being a little panicked of like, how do we do this? This is so, to use a horrible phrase that we've used for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, is unprecedented. And we don't have a guidebook as to how to make this work. But fortunately, the whole filming process was incredibly safe. And, you know, we all quarantined together in a hotel in Champaign-Urbana. And you were either in your hotel room or you were on set. Like, there was no in between. You forgot your toothbrush, someone else is running to CVS to get it, and they're tying it off to your doorknob, and then they're leaving. They're not allowed on set. So it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, because I mean, it kind of probably had to have been sort of a cautiously optimistic experience where it's just like, you know, we've got this lined up, but one little thing and it might derail, you know, this entire project, because you know, you all are working with a limited budget too, so it's not like you can just have, you know, something derailed by you know, a COVID case and then just resume, you know, a few weeks later because of that. We just couldn't even chance it.
Yeah, I think that everything that happened on this film was a string of just synchronicities and like gifts from the universe that everything just kind of like panned out the way that it did, and really went, at least from my vantage point, pretty flawlessly.
Agreed.
And so really grateful for that, for sure.
Same.
And like when you first lined it up, did you kind of have like the thing where, because things were so touch and go in general at that point in the pandemic, because this is like what, mid 2020 or like
August 2020.
We filmed in August 2020.
Yeah, so it's like things are so touch and go at that point that you're almost just kind of like, you know, is this actually real, you know, maybe. And then like at what point did it like click where you're like, oh, this is real, like this is actually a thing that's happening, and you know, we're back doing this?
I mean,
I think it still has clicked. It's like the movie's made and out, and I'm like, what is happening?
We're like, what fever dream is this? It was definitely kind of, it blew my mind the first time I saw it in theaters. I was like, oh, we did that. But I think the kind of like turning point of, oh, this is the real moment was walking on set for the first time and walking out into the soundstage, which was built out into a warehouse, unair conditioned. It was hot as hell, which led to, you know, like, we're in the middle of that kind of temperatures in Chicago. It wasn't inhumane or anything like that. But, you know, we walked onto set, and the level of detail that was put into the construction of the set, and just like they created this entire world. There were like little tiny details on the shelf that like probably didn't even make it into shots, but just having that, when you walked on set, it was like, whoa, we are in this world.
Yeah,
because I know the you know, that whole like first part of the movie takes place in the I guess it's the adult bookstore with like the peep show booths. And I know at C2E2 that you had mentioned that like there were the details like the dildos in the case that are, you know, when you first walk in there. And then the other thing that stuck out to me was Luke had mentioned that there had been a poster in the background with the topless woman, but they had to like kind of censor that out in the final version because of all these different things that go into like how a film is distributed, which I'd never even thought about that before I went to that panel.
It's
Right.
true.
I didn't even know that that was a thing until he said that. I was like, oh, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
I mean,
there's
the FCC has a lot to say.
the FCC won't let me be. So,
Yeah, I mean that and I think that came up around the time that you all were talking about the one like Shudder review that was one skull and it was like someone named Kyle 69 and the review is just no boobs with a Z.
Zero boobies.
no boobies. No boobies.
Well, boobies cost extra, Kyle.
Yeah, it's I mean I feel like that's also kind of a thing where this movie would catch people off guard because part of the premise is that it's in like a peep show kind of booth kind of thing, and you know, some people might go in thinking that, and hey, your expectations just got subverted.
Yeah.
Correct. Big time. Sneak attack.
Yeah, no, it's there was that one guy during the panel that I don't know what his problem was.
I rolled my eyes so hard I blacked out.
Yeah,
I was telling Caito and Tim and Mike and like everybody afterwards, I was like, I was doing everything in my power not to just die laughing because there's something so hilarious to me about like, have your opinion, please, God, that's what art is for, like, you know, but there's something so funny to me about somebody that will sit through the entire film hating it and then sit through the whole talk back just to have his sweet little voice heard
Just to
of like,
have his
you know,
his piece.
and I
Yep.
was like, this is great. Like, this is like truly unreal.
It sent me because I could hear you laughing next to me. It was great.
yeah. I was trying not to laugh because it's just the idea of someone looking at the premise for the movie and coming there and being upset that it wasn't high art.
Like, what did you expect, my guy? I don't know what to tell you.
It was like,
I
I've
don't know.
seen all of this before and like all in so many movies. I was like, okay.
Go. I would
well,
like
we're
to
not,
see
we're
your
not
list.
reinventing the wheel. And also, yes, please
Give me your references.
give me examples.
Yeah, I mean, part of what I loved about it was that it was just like a leave your brain at the door kind of fun 80s B movie. There are aspects of it along those lines that reminded me a little bit of you know, the original Evil Dead and Chud and movies like that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, you know, we had the Chud reference in the writing, but also Luke, we did that Evil Dead shot where it kind of like swoops in right before we duck down into the tunnels below. And that was really fun to shoot. And it took us several takes because it was like, it is so nuanced and it is such a specific shot that is such a nod to Evil Dead that we wanted to make sure we got it right. So.
You know, there's even like little lines in it that still like I think about them every now and then and they make me laugh. Like the one that just pops into my head intermittently at least like once a week now is Coos Brews.
Yes.
So Ben Silverio, who's a friend of ours who did our Q&A when we screened it here in the city, leaned over at one point. He's like, you need to make koozies that say Coos Brews on them.
It's just so smart.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite moments. I love it. I love that moment so much because it like fully like it snaps Sally out of it, but it like shifts the tone completely and is like just such a magical moment for I think both characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the note about, you know, making a lot out of limited resources and budget, I was really impressed with how you all made the best of the effects that, you know, were available too, because it was impressive the extent that you all were able to go with practical effects, and then also just like even with the limited budget, the digital effects were surprisingly good too.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of it was, as Luke said, we were we thought we were only going to have practicals. So we did the best that we could with what we could do, with real creepy snakes that were made of silicone that were wrapped around Shaina 90% of the time.
Yeah, those snakes.
Yep.
Snakes. I don't know, no snakes.
Yep.
They were a lot of fun, and Brian Zurich, who created all of those snakes and Asmodeus's head and everything, is just so great with building and with special effects, and he really nailed it. Hi, Kat.
This is Scully.
Hi, Scully.
She's been putting her little paws on the table and watching you while you talk. She just has both paws and she's watching you. It's
I
pretty
want to
cute.
meet her so bad.
She's cute.
Sorry, I got cat distracted.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
She's new. She's new here.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with practical effects like that, like with the snakes, is it kind of weird, like at first when you're trying to get into the mindset to react to that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think like the technical stuff might be a little like you have to think about this and at this exact time and like where it is and where it's landing. But I think having it there practically actually helps more than if it were fully visual.
Right.
Yeah. And so, because like even like having the sensation of something like being pulled around my body and like up onto my shoulder, I think that really helped. Yeah.
Yeah, rather than having to fake it, having something to look at and kind of operate from, rather than kind of theater of the mind sort of stuff, I think was definitely really helpful. And to Brian's credit, in his creature creation, like those snakes were like pretty gross and scary looking, just as like practicals. Like they were huge and they were like this like sickly skin tone and like covered in black slime. So it was like pretty easy to buy into what we were seeing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing that I've always kind of wondered about, because as the viewer, you're seeing the final product, but I've just always kind of thought about in the like moment of actually making the film, just that whole process of getting in the mindset that this is a thing that's actually happening to me, and like conveying that in a way that the audience can buy into.
Yeah, it definitely intensifies your job as the actor to be like, you have to believe that this is real.
Yeah.
And I have to help convey that. Yeah.
And to be in a circumstance that like is so not real and having to like buy in as if it is 1000% your reality, it's like this was such a fun acting challenge for that reason, I think, just because it was so high fantasy.
Yeah, but we've got big imaginations.
Yeah, we really do. It's pretty wild. Between the two of us, we could build an entire universe.
I mean, like the other practical effect that really stuck out with me was also the tongue. And I think the idea of a tongue like that is always
the snake tongue
yeah.
coming out of
Ray's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like there's the whole body horror aspect to it.
Yeah. There's this kind of abject, scary thing about it. And Shaina, did you have an idea that was what it was going to be like or was it kind of just what did you have for that?
That's kind of how they described it to me. I think like the challenge there was definitely like the distance and how close it was, not knowing how close it was going to get to my face when it came slithering out, and just having, I think we had to work on that moment a little bit more than some of the others, just as far as like technical reaction to like something very specific that really isn't there. So it's like the flip, right, where it's like that is pure imagination of Bishop just opening his mouth and then having to like see that that coming towards you.
And with the second location in the movie, where you all are underground, the thing that I thought, as I was watching it, that was really smart about that is that because of the nature of that being a labyrinth, you all like it really did a lot to work with the limits, because you could make that look slightly different. It could be any new hallway in a labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to Sarah Sharp and our art department and Dustin Hoke, who did all the set construction, because they really did manage to make like 4 tunnels look like 85 tunnels. So yeah, every time it was different. There were certain times where we'd be running through and the walls were wet, like she had sprayed down the walls, and it was very, very much like Labyrinth the movie, where you see that kind of glistening on it, and then having this alcove that was like full of all the lanterns and things like that. It's just like that small attention to detail really made the limitations of what we were working with like so much more magical and so much more. I found it easier to buy into the world because of that, technical prowess that they have.
Yeah, was there anything that was really surprising to you all when you got to see the final film for the first time?
I mean, the whole thing was surprising to watch because, you're so deep in it when you're creating something and there's just this huge team of people on the other end that are making it into what it is, right? And so as an actor, all you can do is be like, okay, I did my work and I really am excited and like trust that, the team carries it out from there. And like watching it for the first time, I was just having a blast because I was like, wow, that we did that. And like, that's what it looks like now. And like, it's so much fun to see the movie magic come full, like all the way, and see the collaboration like tangibly in front of you. I'm trying to think of specific moments. I don't know, Caito, do you have any?
I think, I did an indie feature prior to this, and I've known Shaina for years. So I think one of the things that maybe not surprising as in like, wow, we can act, but like just seeing the difference of like who I know the two of us to be as people and as actors, and then translating those characters, and what parts of us are very present in those characters, and what parts of us were like we had to really tap into something that was very foreign to us. And kind of seeing this depiction of these characters. There were a couple times where I was watching it where I would be so into the storyline that it was like, oh, I forget that this is us. Like, I was just engaged with the story. So I think I was kind of surprised and taken aback by just kind of the finished product and how it felt to watch yourself and feel like you weren't watching yourself, like you were watching Angie and Sally.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Not as a like, let's pat ourselves on the back about our acting, but it was just like such a difference of like who we are versus.
No, but I think the film itself is like, it kind of time travels you, and so like, along with that, it's you go on the ride and it's easy to be lost in the whole story. And even just with like the composition, I think was just like so fucking cool to hear for the first time.
Yeah,
so good.
Alex Cuervo knocked that out of the park.
A genius, and so I think like just all of it coming together and like feeling the mood and the vibe that they were trying to create was really cool.
Yeah, the score in it was just another thing that really kind of pulled me into it as I was watching, because there's that synth heavy kind of score, and then I think at one point there's like a hair metal track that pops up too.
Yeah, Saint and Sinner by Atlant 87. I think they're Norwegian based. They wrote that song for us.
Oh,
which was really cool.
Yeah, and I just lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. Here, let me throw that at you. Yeah, that came out on Burning Witches. Yeah, Burning Witches Records, which is a UK based company. We have it on neon pink cassette, which is wild.
The merch coming out of this is just
the merch coming out of this is nuts.
Yeah, no, there's a comic coming out that kind of expands on some of the different characters too.
There are 4 comics
Oh.
coming out. Yeah, that are all world tie-ins. So there's one for Angie and Sally, and then there's one for Ray and Asmodeus. So those are all available right now for pre-sale at your local comic book shop local. And those will be out on September 14th, I believe, is the drop date for those.
Yeah, and
So
with all of that, do you all think that there might also, potentially be a sequel too?
I mean, I hope so.
What I would give to be back on set with all of these idiots. Like, that would just be like, of course I want to tell the story, but also it would be so amazing to just be able to work with all of these people again.
Yeah. Luke kind of said it best, I think, that like, and Shaina kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, of like, this was such a like a synthesis of like perfect events out of this really horrible event that we all just went through, that like really clicked in exactly like how it was supposed to. And it was so magical that, as Luke said, we're all going to be kind of chasing that high and hoping that our next projects are going to feel like that. So I certainly hope that Revealer 2 is something that could be in the works.
Put it
Yeah,
out
and
there. Comment on
Yeah,
things.
we're saying it. Yeah, tell the
We
fans.
demand a sequel.
We can't live without it.
Yeah, this one is just like, it's so contained and so it's a very heartfelt movie. Like, you can just feel everyone's like passion that went into making it as you're watching it. And then because of how contained it is, I feel like if there's a sequel, it makes it easier to kind of expand outward because of that. And it also, I guess, would kind of be timed decently now with just everything being a little bit more open and doable along those lines too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Caito and Tim and I have like all of our own like theories of what would happen next, and like, or like prequels and things like that. So I think it'd be fun.
I think it would be great.
Lots of possibilities.
Yeah, lots of possibilities, especially now that things are more open.
Yeah.
We have vaccines and things like that. We do have the ability to expand this universe 10, 20, 100-fold.
Yeah, meet more characters.
Yeah.
More locations. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what are y'all working on now?
I just wrapped another feature. It's another like horror thriller, name forthcoming. But similar crew folks. Sarah Sharp is a producer on it. Rob Stern, who DP'd Revealer, was also DPing on this one. So got to be back with a few of the gang, which was really fun, in a very, very different role. So I'm excited to see what comes of this one.
And I wrapped Black Mold in March of this year. That was written, directed, and is now being edited by John Pata, who is our post-production supervisor on Revealer. And similar kind of circumstance to what Shaina was saying. It's Sarah Sharp and Rob Stern and Brian Zurich and Jill Six, the writer-director of The Stylist, was one of the producers and did hair on it for a bit there. And so it's a lot of the same group. So I'm really excited to see what happens with that. That'll be, as far as we know, it's sometime in 2023. We're thinking early 2023. That's kind of the most I can say about it.
Yeah, and sort of in the context of Revealer being set in the 80s, and like now there's this whole return of the satanic panic going on, does that make it a little bit more exciting now to to do horror movies too, or to do projects like Revealer particularly?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think working on horror in general is just like a goddamn blast, and like is so especially like the stuff that like I think is being produced recently is so great for actors, and like really awesome roles coming of it, and stories, and I think more relevance than like in years past. And I'm having damn good time.
Yeah, same. For me personally, my favorite genres or subgenres of horror are ghost stories, haunted house stories, but also demonic possession. So the fact that Satanic Panic is literally trending on Twitter in a very sincere way, I'm kind of like, yeah, let's feel this fire. There's a little bit of like a subversive feeling to it, but like Shaina was saying, making horror films is like not something where I thought my acting career might end up, but I'm so grateful that it has, because this is just like the coolest, most wild ride that I've ever gotten to experience. So
And
I'm
it
really
attracts
grateful.
such incredible people too. Like
Truly,
just
the
the
horror
people that we've
community.
gotten to meet through premieres and like on set and just, you know, at panels and things. Like it's just, I'm really excited to be a part of this community now.
Yeah, it truly is. Like being part of a nerdy world as it is, and then realizing that horror is just like exactly the same kind of people who just like scare your shit. Like, it just is. It's such a welcoming environment, and it's been really wonderful to like be part of this and just be along for this wild ride.
Yeah, one of the things I've always loved about the horror genre too is the films end up forming these like fairly tight-knit communities among the people who work on them, to the point that like I guess the best example I can think of off the top of my head is Sam Raimi, where everything that he's pretty much worked on over the years, in a lot of cases, he's figured out a way to stick Bruce Campbell in it in some form or fashion.
Sure,
And
yeah. Which is so cool.
Yeah, I mean it's and they all there's always just like the cult followings that develop among so many of the horror films that I think say a lot more over time than you know, some other film genres, where something is like the film that you have to see this year, but like who's still talking about it in like 5 years, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's very true.
Yeah, I feel like with any other genre of film, not to knock it in any way, but you know, it's like name your favorite drama, name your favorite comedy. Like people might have some ideas, but when it comes to horror, they're like, oh, well, I vehemently like Scream, or you know, whatever it may be, or you know, they like, there's just so many people who have like an immediate answer to what their favorite horror film is, and to kind of get to be a part of this genre and kind of build and like I said before, flip it on its ear and do something a little bit different with the genre. It's like really cool to be a part of.
Yeah.
And what's your like go-to horror film? Like what was kind of, I guess, your gateway into the genre that you know, you hold near and dear to your heart to this day?
Mine are the Poltergeists.
Ooh.
For sure.
I just saw the first Poltergeist film, like I want to say like 2 months ago for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it.
We haven't like marathoned those.
We gotta, oh, why didn't we do that last time we hung out? We marathoned the Conjuring films last time we hung out. The first film that I saw that put me off of horror when I was 8 was I saw Idle Hands, and I had like such a little kid imagination that it just like ruined my life. But as an adult, I kind of dipped my toe back into it. I was like, all right, let's try this again. And Halloween was really the first one that kind of yanked me back in. And then I was like, this is just gonna snowball from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was always a big Halloween and Evil Dead guy. And
Nice.
then you mentioned Idle Hands, and like the thing that always stuck out to me about that movie, I saw that I think in 7th grade. And I just remember being really stoked that The Offspring had a cameo in it, because that was like right around the time that they like blew up for a year or two.
Yes, oh my god, that's totally right. Wow. Wild.
I also had a big like Texas Chainsaw Massacre moment because I grew up in Texas, and that was like the neighborhood kid like Friday night thing to do, was like watch those and like other horror movies. So that was my big entrance into horror, was like the neighborhood kids would watch scary movies while the parents got drunk in the driveway.
Brilliant.
Texas. And so like I distinctly remember the whole group convincing me that the Texas main chainsaw massacres happened like right near where we lived, and then I had to like run home like, 10 houses and was like sprinting in the dark to
God.
get home. Kids
All
are
of the
mean.
things that damaged us in childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was I think one of the like entry points for me, like when I was a teenager, where the inspired by a true story, you kind of like learn the difference really quick between inspired by a true story and based on a true story.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I just remember like there were other people like my age at the time too that believed that it was, a thing that really happened. And then there was like a handful of us who at that time were just like, we went through like the whole like serial killer obsessed phase where it's
Right.
like there was this guy in Texas and he dug up a bunch of graves and turned all the bodies into like lamps and furniture and stuff.
You're like, no, it's real. All the urban legend stuff where you're like just trying to convince your friends that this is absolutely 100% factual.
Yeah, because I mean, you're like at that age where it's just like that's not real. Like there was like you hear about like a guy who was a birthday clown like murdering a bunch of kids. And you're like, no, that didn't really happen.
Way, man. You're like, no, my dad told me. I just love it.
Yeah, well, I've had you all for about 40 minutes now. Is there anything else that you all want to promote while you've got a chance here?
Anything from you?
I don't think
Shaina?
so.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. truly happy to be here. Looking forward to this fall. I'm hoping that everybody has a nice Halloween spooky season.
Spooky season.
Yeah, can kind of enjoy that whole experience. And I just keep thinking about the horror community and how much, for the most part, we all just love on each other. So just keep on loving each other.
Yeah, definitely.